Alright, what I figured I'd start doing instead of just jumping straight into time lapses is I'm going to show at least one, like there's 8 of these to do, obviously with that 8-cylinder. But anyways, I'm going to do one, not in the time lapse, so you can see exactly what I'm doing, and then jump to the time lapse with the rest to not bore you to death. Right, so you got a little hydraulic press. Again, put the pin in, get it lined up, centered. There we go. When it pops loose, it just pushes through. Make sure it doesn't get too much tonnage on the pressure. It should be fine. And we're done. Pull it off, rod is off, piston is off. Now, we're going to do that 7 more times, so let's get to a time lapse. I'm going to show you one for the rods, getting the rod bearings in it. The rod screws off, the cap off of it. The surfaces, again, like whoever had this done, it's been machined recently. So like not really anything to clean off them. They're pretty good surfaces. Just make sure there's no oil, grease, or any kind of contaminants. You want your bearings going to a dry surface. Get there's threads too. Spread them caps off. It's a nice and shiny surface. Like I said, it's a nice and shiny surface, nothing wrong with it. Sure, I don't see anything at the moment that would require me to clean them up any better than they already are, other than just making sure there's nothing on them. These are the King CR803 SI rod bearings, connecting rod bearings. Very careful when doing that, do not gouge your bearing. Pretty sure these won't matter if there's not going to be an upper or lower, but you always want to check your bearings to make sure on your part number, it'll be right in here. I don't know if you can actually see the part number. A C624 SI standard, like the standard rod bearing. But sometimes it'll have a U for upper or an L for lower, which these do not. So it does not matter if it goes in the upper or lower. But you need to make sure you look at your bearings, make sure you don't have something that has a U or an L on it to indicate that it needs to go either in upper, which is the actual part that goes up to the piston, or your lower that's on the bottom half of the crankshaft. Spray these guys off, make sure there's nothing on it to be contaminating anything. Want to make sure everything is nice and clean, your hands, bearings, rod, everything. The tang on the bearing, put it in the slot in the rod, center it, press it down in the center, make sure you're good, close in on it. Tang goes to tang, so you got a tang, you got a tang, put them together, seat it. Bolts back on, need some lube. Some of that on there. On the bolt, everybody. No friction when you're torquing down. And now we got that done, let's get on to that time lapse. Back to doing at least one before the time lapse, torquing the rods down. So this is how I go about that. Lock it into place twice. Torque ring set to 45. Do it in little stages. 25, 25, 35, 35, 45, 45, and then check them. So that moves a little bit before it hit 45. Also moves a little bit before it hit 45. So since it moves, check again. Good. And that's why you always double check. It wasn't quite. It's probably like 44. That's not going to make that big of a difference, because it'll still, the motor will hold together at 44 foot-pounds. But, you know, might as well do what the manufacturer says to do. So, I'm going to get back to a time lapse of the rest of them. All the rods have been assigned to home, so let's get these pistons out and start hanging them on those rods with that machine. Your piston's going to have a dash, that's going to go to the forward. You're going to want that facing this direction. You can do it however you want, but this is how I physically do it. My workflow. But yeah, this piece right here is more or less just like a little bump stop. It's going to keep this from going so far. And you're going to measure it with the rod, and I'll show you how that's done in just a second. This might be a little bit of a cutscene type thing I'll have to do. But anyways, I'm going to line your pin up center in the piston. The two little rods here that brace it. This against that. Are we even? We are not. We need to get a slight bit in. Get a slight bit in. Take a rod, stick it in the center. Line it up to about even. Press it forward until it stops up against the piston. There we go. We got that set. Remove everything. Tighten this back down. You're nice and tight. You do not want this moving on you. There we go. Then we're going to redo everything and see if it stops where it's supposed to. That's that double checking I always talk about. That's centered. Yep, we're good on the pin. Line this back up in the center of the pin. Forward. All right, push and we stop. Perfect. That should hang the rod directly in the center of the piston. So let's get to that. Now we got to start hanging the actual rods. Let me get that set up and I'll be right back. Let me make sure I'm right on that. Yep, that's rod 1. Check that again. Rod 2. We got rod 1, rod 2. And so the tangs actually need to go to the pan rail in the motor. And so when I line these up to keep it consistent, I always have the dash facing forward. So I always know where it is. So in your rods themselves, you can see there's a little bit of a chamfer right there, where there's not so much of one on this side. So this is the side that butts up against that rod like that, and this goes up against the actual crank, and it gives the clearance for where it rounds up in the actual crank, on the actual crank, I guess I should say. So that's why I line up this one facing out this way with the tang, this one facing out that way with the tang. So when I grab it, I pick it up, and the piston's always facing forward, push it on, it's put on correctly. Same thing with this one, pick it up, straight in, push it in. Now it's set up to be on the other side of the motor and everything face the right directions. With that being said, let's go ahead and heat one of the rods up, get it in the actual machine start. All right, I always put a little delay in between them, that way there, I can go ahead and take it up front, put it where it needs to go to be put into the motor in time that this one's gonna cut back off and I can put the next piston on. And after we get the rod heated up, we got this little guy right here. Let's push that right into the pin, and that's how you push it through. And I'll show you me physically doing that here in just a second. As you can tell, this machine has put on quite a few pistons in its day. Pull it out, clamp on, there it goes, starting to move. Move it back out, center it up, perfect, perfect. Yeah, buddy. As soon as it cools off, I'll show you where that's at, because I can't touch it right now. This is what I was talking about earlier. So it's out slightly right there. Got the same amount of space on the left and right of the rod. And then this side is slightly like that. It is dead centered on the rod. So now that we got all the pistons hung on the rods, let's get the rings on them. Another vlog has come to an end, which means it's time to smash this like button right here. Click on the share button over here. Share this vlog with anybody you think might find it interesting. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the vlog. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell. That way there you'll get the notifications, and we will talk with you later. Whoosh.